development framework. And therefore, we would like to invite our speakers, Mr. Makmur Sanusi, Senior Advisor to the Indonesian Ministry of Social Welfare, Ms. Aiko Akiyama, Social Affairs Officer, Social Development Division, UNESCAP, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, through a video conference, Mr. Kyle Lemargie, Senior Programs and Research Specialist, International Foundation for Electoral Systems, IFES. Chair of this session, Ms. Nguyen Hong Ha, Director of Hanoi Independent Living Center, Hanoi, ILC. And we also invite to join Mr. Saurat from Cambodia as the co-chair of this session. And now I hand over the floor to our chair.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is my honor to be the chair of this session, and I would like to introduce my co-chair, Mr. Saurat from Cambodia. And Saurat is the chair of ADF as well. And we are waiting for Mr. Yanusi? Sorry. So waiting for Dr. Mahma Sunisi, and he may be in a traffic jam. So we would like to show you the presentation by Aiko Akiyama first. As many of you may know, Aiko Akiyama is a social affairs officer of the Social Development Division for the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. You can call it UNESCAP. She was a policy aide to a member of the House of the Representatives in Japan and specialized in promotion of disability issues within the legislative body by facilitating meetings between organizations of persons with disabilities and parliamentarians. Prior to that, Akiyama was a project coordinator at the Japan Pacific Resource Network, NGO, California, and a freelance interpreter, translator, writer. Her publications or translations include the translation of the No Pity by Joseph Shapiro in 2000. And she's a journalist, and she wrote the journalistic description of the US disability movement, and treated the translation of the Californian system for people with developmental disabilities, retarding environment in 1998, and a paper on Asian Pacific Decade of Disabled Persons, and other both in English and Japanese in 2002 to present. Akiyama received her bachelor degree, honorary graduates in cultural anthropology from University of California, Berkeley, and the master degree in disability studies from University of Leeds. Well, so Aiko Akiyama cannot come to our conference, so you will listen to her presentation by video. Please.
For the note as well, everyone, we are going to have the 3 or 4 questions after the Akiyama finish her presentation. So please make note while you got any question if you wish to ask her. So we could continue for question and answer after she finish her presentation. So I hope the technical issue is going to be ready, and then we're going to start with Akiyama and Akiyama. Please start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello, Akiyama.
Hello.
The floor is yours.
Hello?
Yes, hello, now we can hear you. You can start your presentation now.
Hello?
Yes, hello, now we are hearing you and you can start your presentation. Welcome to our conference.
Can you hear me?
We got some technical problem. Could you adjust the sound so that we could hear her voice? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you, Akiyama. Can you hear us? Still not. Or could we try to call again so it would be work?
No.
Could we cut and recall again to her so hopefully it works? As it is a Sky conversation or Sky presentation, there won't be no, it has no subtitle on the screen for your information.
Hello?
Yeah, hello, we hear you now.
Yes?
Good. Now the floor is yours. You got 15 minutes to present, and then you got the end of the presentation. You have 3 or 4 questions from our audience. Welcome you on the board. Now the floor is yours, Akiyama.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now. Now you can start your presentation.
Hello?
Yeah, hello, we hear you now. Let's start with your presentation, Aiko.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Hello?
Hello.
technical problem, please could you help to make sure
Can
that...
somebody respond to me, please?
Yeah, now I'm speaking to you. Can you hear me? I'm Saurot from Cambodian. Can you hear me? I'm Saurot. Can you hear me? We are hear you quite well. So can you start your presentation, please?
Yes, I cannot really hear you too well, but I take it that I can start my presentation.
That's good. Please start your presentation. You got 15 minutes, please.
Okay, all right.
It's work now.
If you cannot hear me anytime, please interject, okay?
Okay, we will. Yeah, thanks for your advice.
So, starting my PowerPoint, to be a fourth and fifth. My name is Aiko Akiyama. I'm a disability focal point at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. Today, I'd like to share information on what we do to promote realization of political rights of persons with disabilities in this region, with the hope to explore together how we can work in a cohesive way to produce desired results. Could you go to the next slide, please?
Next slide, please.
Is it, are we on next slide?
Yes,
Okay, I
yes.
assume so.
Okay, we got it.
ASEAN is a regional arm of United Nations. It could be called as the Parliament of Asia Pacific. Next slide, page 3. ESCAP is an international organization consisting of 62 member states, which means government, but it can include Hong Kong or Macau, China. Western end of ESCAP region, we will see countries such as Iran, Turkey. Southern end, we can see countries such as Cook Islands, Fiji. Northern end, of course, Russian Federation. So it
Could you tell a message that we have problem with the sound, please? is it possible to connect the internet? I really worry about the time. Chris, could you advise on this, please?
If it doesn't work, we may come to the next presenter. Is it okay, Chris? Okay. All right. So while waiting for the internet and for the another speaker, we have a very good speaker here. Sorry. Mr. Kai Lemargie. And many of you have seen him working with the agenda before. And some brief something about Mr. Kai Lemargie. Mr. Kai Lemargie has a decade of experience supporting state institutions in civil society to strengthen the democratic governance in Southeast Asia. Mr. Lemargie currently serves as a senior program and research specialist for IFES projects in Southeast Asia. His election experience includes field research and technical assistance assignment in historic election in Myanmar, Thailand, Indonesia, and Timor-Leste. He also oversees IFES regional programming engaging in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. Mr. Lemargie previously worked as a program manager in the Smithsonian Institute's Department of Anthropology and as an Indonesia-based researcher for the World Bank on poverty alleviation and economic development issues. He also served as a long-term field researcher for the Carter Center. He holds a bachelor degree in political science from Washington State University and a master degree in Southeast Asia Studies from Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Please, we are listening to your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start out by saying, in the journey from marginalization to mainstream, I think one of the things that has come out to me from this conference is the importance of really trying to understand what's happening in the spheres of policy that are happening above us, even though sometimes this can be very abstract. You hear lots of long terms and acronyms. Sometimes it can sound like alphabet soup, we say. There's AICHR and TORs and regional frameworks. It can be very difficult to try to follow all of this, but for those of us who are trying to create change in this field, I would argue that tracking what's going on at the regional level is just as important as the work that we do at the grassroots level. It's just as important that we understand how a regional human rights body functions as it is that we know the importance of ramps or sign language interpretation at the grassroots level. So for those of you who are joining us who are from outside of the ASEAN region, I just want to quickly define a couple of terms that I'll be using in my presentation. Probably the most important one is AICHR, AICHR, and that is the regional human rights body, the overarching regional human rights body for the ASEAN region. You'll remember the keynote speech from yesterday was opened by Pak Effendi Jamin, who's Indonesia's representative to AICHR. This is a 10-person human rights body that has probably one of the most challenging jobs, policy jobs anywhere in the world. for those of you who are familiar with the politics of the ASEAN region, you know that this region is composed of several countries that have very different political systems, very different beliefs. And AICHR has the very, very tough mandate of trying to promote and protect a set of cross-cutting universal rights in such a diverse region. So this year, or I should say last year, 2014, was a critical year for the human rights body, for AICHR. They had just completed the first 5 years of their work and opened their work to review from civil society, all with the purpose of revising their terms of reference, revising their mandate, a process which is currently taking place. During this review of their performance and their terms of reference, civil society was understandably critical of the performance of the Commission. I say understandably because the Commission does have a very challenging role. There's trying to implement something that's universal in a region where everything is caveated by the phrase "according to national law," or where the predominant norm amongst ASEAN states is non-interference in each other's politics. It leaves a very narrow set of activities that the Commission can do. But the true criticism, I think, of AICHR is that even within this narrow mandate, they have not been able to really exercise to its full extent their terms of reference. They haven't been able to really push the boundaries of their narrow mandate. Next slide, please. Okay. Next slide, please. So this raises an important question. If AICHR is trying to really maximize its impact in Southeast Asia, it needs to be working in areas where there is a consensus, between ASEAN states. If you look at this graph really quickly, this is something that I think Pat Rafendi and also Ms. Yuyun yesterday were mentioning. But these are all of the international conventions, the main international conventions on rights. And you can see basically the ones that are listed to the left are more political. It's the rights of migrant workers, the Convention Against Torture, the Convention Against Enforced Disappearances. You can see that on these more political conventions, there isn't a lot of consensus amongst ASEAN's 10 members. But as you start moving towards the right there, as you get into the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the Convention on the rights of children as well. These are less controversial amongst AICHR's members, and you can see that almost all of the members have ratified these. When you look at the Convention on the Rights for Persons with Disabilities, there's only one ASEAN state that hasn't ratified this convention. So there's a high level of consensus within the region on the CRPD. Also, in the area of disability, there's an already established regionally agreed disability inclusive development framework that's in place. You'll hear Aiko speak about it in a minute as soon as we get the Skype working. That's the Incheon Strategy. This is a strategy that has been agreed throughout the Asia-Pacific region and endorsed at high-level ministerial meetings. What I would like to point out with my presentation is actually the connection between these two things, the connection between AICHR's mandate and the Incheon Strategy. Next slide, please. So several of the Incheon Strategy goals connect very closely with AICHR's existing terms of reference, which suggests a win-win dynamic if AICHR decides to engage with the strategy. Next slide, please. Looking at the two strategies, or looking at the strategy, at the Incheon Strategy, and at AICHR's mandate, at its terms of reference, we can see several things that are very similar. For the Incheon Strategy, Goal 9, that goal is all about getting countries within the ASEAN region to adopt the CRPD. Then if we look over at AICHR's terms of reference, its mandate, Article 4.5 says that AICHR is mandated to encourage ASEAN member states to consider acceding and ratifying international human rights instruments. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Goal 10 of the Incheon Strategy is to advance the sub-regional, regional, and inter-regional cooperation, where, looking again to AICHR's terms of reference, Article 4.9 says that the Commission is mandated to consult, as may be appropriate, with other national, regional, and international institutions and entities concerned with the promotion and protection of human rights. So once again, what we're seeing here is the Incheon Strategy for making the right real. You know, this Asian decade for persons with disabilities, the strategy document lining up with an institution that's mandated to carry out the strategy.
Can you finish?
Yes. Next slide, please. Okay. So where does this leave us? For this conference, what we're really focusing on is Goal 2 of the Incheon Strategy, promoting participation in political processes and decision making. Is there anything in ASEAN's terms of reference that really get at this? Okay, so I'll wrap up then. The answer to this question is that as AICHR is successful in getting all of the countries in ASEAN to accede to ratify the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, AICHR will have the mandate to basically promote Article 29 of the CRPD, which is what we've all been talking about at the conference. You know, really ensuring that persons with disabilities have the right and that the right is fulfilled to participate in the political process.
Thank you, Mr. Lemargie.
Okay, thank you, Cal, for your presentation. I think time running very fast, and this is panel 7. I feel very Plenary Session 7. I feel very interesting, as now ASEAN 2015 is only one ASEAN for all, and we observe that in ASEAN Committee we got children's rights, women's rights, but not yet about disability rights. And it's really good recommendation from our speaker as well, Cal, about how willing our Incheon Strategy with the AICHR, and I think it demands our participants to read more about the role of AICHR, as well as how we make sure the AICHR play a crucial role to support the right-based approach and make the right real for the future of persons with disability in our region as well. So, and one more comment and from Kyle as well, how we leverage, I like this word, the word leverage to our person with disability into the post-MDG as well as the Incheon Strategy, and we make the link, the instrument that already take place in Southeast Asian. We observe there are many instruments in the meantime. So what we going to use that instrument to make sure ASEAN intergovernment take action. Now we got the new mechanism as well. Besides agenda, we also got ASEAN Disability Forum. We're going to make sure that what we discuss today, we're going to implement for the future of our work as well. Now, as time is running very fast, we allow 3 or 4 people to ask Cal any question you like linked to the topic. Now the floor is open. Please raise up your hand and tell us your name and raise the question straight to him, please. Very clear or no question?
Any
Any comment,
comments,
yeah.
please, for a very interesting presentation?
It seems quiet. That's good.
Please, Kai,
Okay,
you have anything to share more?
Can I ask myself a question?
Yes.
No, actually, one comment that I would like to make is that I think in watching how the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights has performed over the last 5 years, it's to all of our advantage to make sure that AICHR grows stronger as an institution. They do not always have the mandate to proactively go out and work with civil society and address several of these more difficult, more political rights questions. However, some countries within the ASEAN framework have voluntarily engaged with AICHR and shared human rights information. I think it's very important for the disability movement to work with state officials and really ensure that as we're implementing the Incheon Strategy, as we're collecting the data and the evidence that the Incheon Strategy asks us to collect, that we reach out to AICHR and present this information to AICHR as well. And by doing so, we will help them grow as an institution, help them have more impact.
Now we got a question from our Cecily from Malaysia.
All right.
So you can add more comment. Cecily, the floor is yours now, please.
Assalamualaikum, a very good afternoon. My name is Muhammad Sazali. Again, I'm from Malaysia. Mr. Chairman and Madam Chair, actually I'm going to repeat the same question. I think I did throw a wrong question to the wrong session earlier. But I think this session would be more appropriate because we are actually looking at the accessible election. You know, we're actually promoting, educating government towards the accessibility for, accessible election for people with disabilities. Okay, my question, as I posted earlier, is we're working very hard to make sure that election is accessible for people with disabilities. But are the politicians or the new formatted government would actually fulfill the responsibility to provide us with the needs that we require among the PWDs? How do we work it on if we want it to be a win-win situation? Because our vote is pretty valuable, but are the politicians actually appreciating and assisting it the other way around for us? Thank you.
Okay. Yes, it's a very good question. I think a lot of the focus here has been on trying to make sure that election officials understand the rights of persons with disabilities and making sure that election officials are doing all that they can to fulfill those rights in the election process. But it's a very good question of how do you make sure also that politicians, elected officials, are also fulfilling our rights and needs. For the disability community, I think there are different strategies to use. By all means, continue to engage with the election commissions and election officials. But I also think in the political process, creating activities that really give opportunities for politicians to present their platforms, and especially their platforms for persons with disabilities, is a very, potentially a very effective way of getting them to really be a partner in fulfilling the needs of persons with disabilities and fulfilling the rights. You know, politicians love any opportunity to spread their message, and especially to get publicity, media. So having debates or having an activity that gives politicians, political parties, an opportunity to present their platform and to engage with constituents with disabilities, I think is a very, it's a type of activity that we don't see yet in a lot of places, but I think there's a lot of potential for that.
If you don't mind, I would add 3 points more for Cecily and our friend movement of persons with disability. I think first of all we have to be thinking of ownership of the intergovernment, as disability is a cross-cutting issue, and it's not the responsible of DBO. And let's keep working along with government and compile the best practice. And this morning we also found a very beautiful tool about the bridge tool for training to M&E, because election play a very crucial role for persons with disability. So the other 3 tips, as I mentioned, ownership of the government, as well as keep working along with the government by compile the best practice from our ASEAN country or the region, and then use the bridge tool for training and our management body for election, and then use Incheon Strategy plus UNCRPD as a tool. Advocacy, it demands time. I think we cannot expect one mandate of the government do everything for us, but let's keep fighting, keep talking, and work along with them, and be friendly with them, I think. Thank you, my friend.
Quite right, Sarah. DPO's role is very important in this fight or campaign, to get the accessible election. Thank you. Any more questions, please? Okay.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm from the Institute on Disability and Public Policy. I would just like to ask if Agenda or other organizations would do more trainings on the Incheon Strategy and the UNCRPD, because without the knowledge of such documents, we would not be able to argue or to negotiate with government with what we're trying to say or do. So knowing more about the policy and how to implement it in the grassroots level would help a lot if these organizations like Agenda and IFES would do more trainings for such matter as we are doing it with IDPP. Good afternoon.
Yes, I can respond to that quickly. I think that's a very important point. I started out by saying that, you know, it is as critical for us to be aware of these regional constructs above us as it is to be involved in the grassroots. And I know the Agenda Project has partnered here in Indonesia with the Human Rights Working Group to do a training for disabled people's organizations on the CRPD, on AICHR, and on engaging with ASEAN. And as part of that training, it was actually going to the ASEAN Secretariat and meeting directly with ASEAN officials and using the new concepts right away in meetings. I am very hopeful that Agenda, I can't speak for Agenda, but I'm very hopeful that they will continue to do this. I think Pak Rafendi Jamin from AICHR, in his keynote speech, gave us a very big challenge. He mentioned that the new ASEAN blueprint for the ASEAN community that's being drafted right now, being discussed right now, that's the blueprint for 2016 to 2025, and right now it does not include disability. I think we will have to start really looking at this process, at the blueprint for the ASEAN community, really analyzing it and training, discussing with all the DPOs involved in Agenda, the ASEAN Disability Forum, other regional forums, making sure that we all have a combined message to bring to ASEAN and make sure that disability is integrated into that blueprint.
Okay, thank you, Kai. Mr. Kai. Oh, one more question, please. The last one, please.
The last one.
Try to be brief, please.
Ya, nama saya Juniati, saya dari Gerkatin. Saya barusan saja datang dari Jambi dan untuk pelantikan teman-teman di sana. Juga bertemu dengan dinas sosial dan mereka punya pandangan yang berbeda bahwa menurut orang-orang dari dinas BRIK tersebut adalah tuli itu atau tunarungu itu ingin berbahasa isyarat karena malas berbicara. Ini seperti stigma atau negatif dan juga salah persepsi dari pemikiran mereka. Bagaimana caranya untuk memberitahu bahwa mereka itu bahwa itu adalah akses kami. Terima kasih.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question, but I think I understand. I think I understand what was meant. I think for this issue, the only answer I have on it is that we have to continue to engage. I believe within the disability community there's much diversity and there are different issues that come up in trying to design accessible measures. For people with for people with different disabilities, there can be easy fixes, and there are other things that are much more difficult. I remember earlier in the conference, some discussion about sign language and how sign language can even differ from one region to the next. So for election officials to try to really create solutions, it requires a lot of interaction and engagement. And I think the lesson of Agenda is that has to happen both ways. It's the election organizers really taking a personal and inspired interest in this topic, and it's also the DPOs organizing and reaching out to the election officials. I hope Agenda and other NGOs throughout Southeast Asia can help facilitate this process. It's not an easy solution.
He doesn't seem to come. Close. Well, thank you, Mr. Lemargie, for your good answer, even it is a little bit out of your topic. Thank you. And I think it's a time to finish for the presentation of Mr. Lemargie and go to another presentation. Please, the Secretariat, please let us know if we can continue with the Aiko Akiyama's presentation, or if Dr. Maximo Sunisi has come or not, has been here or not. One question to who?
Maybe, no.
You can make
Maybe to answer to our friend a bit more because of some technical problem, I would like to share some idea with our friend from deaf community as well. I think the change concept of the mindset of people to understand about different need, example, they said deaf need braille, it's totally wrong. It's not the concept of our DPO. It is not the complaint or the mistake of person with disability, but it is the problem of the understanding, awareness, understanding of the people who are not yet understand the need and the access of person with disability in the country. So my strongly suggestion, don't stop our movement, don't sleep. If you are asleep, you are die. So like, if our voice we are not talk, no one rest our voice for us. So keep continue and discuss and debate based on nothing about us, without us. They are not disability, they are not deaf. They really don't understand what we need and what we want. So don't stop, okay? Keep talking until they hear our voice and fulfill the need for us. I believe on your ability. Let's keep working together for success, for our ASEAN society for all. We have to create society for all, and remember, any social development without include people with disability, it's not a real development, and they cannot achieve the goal. Thank you very much.
To add into the comments of Saras, I think the mainstreaming is the most important for this process. And this is our recommendations to the government and the general election authorities, is to work with people with disabilities. And the involvement of people with disabilities and the leaders of the DPOs is important to get the goal and to fulfill the rights of people with disabilities. Mr. Lemargie, do you have anything to share with us?
Certainly.
Oh, finished? All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so. Well, we are waiting to see if we can have any other presentation. I'm sorry. We are sorry for that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think take this opportunity. I believe like in the meantime there are many works still rely on our shoulder. Even though we got UNCRPD, but UNCRPD is in the paper. So let we use our knowledge, our skill, and encourage our government as well as ASEAN to leverage or to understand about disability. So DPO role play very important role among our stakeholder, among our state party and intergovernment. If they don't include us, they miss us. And then we will lose a lot of interest and we are included in ASEAN society. Yes, yesterday
okay.
I saw
Let's start again.
Okay, now it start working.
Okay, you can start now.
Aiko?
Okay.
Now?
Okay, good.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, again.
Yes, welcome again.
Even though I don't see you, I am so certain that everybody is excited over there on the topic discussed. And so could I just start over the presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay. So first of all, so my purpose of presentation is to share information on what we ASCAP actually do to promote the realization of political rights of persons with disabilities in this region, and then we can discuss further how each of us can work together towards this aim. So, as I said before, ESCAP is next slide please, number 2. ESCAP is the regional arm of United Nations covering economic and social development issues. It could be regarded or called as the Parliament of Asia Pacific. Page 3, please. It's a membership organization constituting 62 member states. The members could be Iran or Turkey on the west end, Cook Islands or Fiji on the southern end, United States on the eastern end, Russian Federation on the northern end. 2/3 of a global population, so whatever we do in this region will have a global significance, we believe. Next slide, number 4. So how do we, ESCAP, promote the realization of the rights of persons with disabilities in general, and particularly political rights in the context of your conference? We have what we call regional instrument called Incheon Strategy to make the right real for persons with disabilities in Asia and the Pacific. It is an intergovernmentally agreed document adopted in 2012. A picture on the slide shows that high-level intergovernmental meeting held in Incheon, Republic of Korea. This document covers an Asian and Pacific decade of persons with disabilities, started in 2013, and that will end in 2022. Next slide, please. That's number 5, just to make sure. So the thrust of this Incheon strategy, number 1, is get counted to count. What does it mean? For the last 2 decades, we learned the lesson that whatever we do was not quite substantiated with data. So we really think that we need to walk the talk with evidence. So the thrust of Incheon strategy has smart approach: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. Therefore, we have 10 goals supported by time-bound 27 targets, supported by 62 indicators that will allow us to measure the progress or the lack thereof. Page 6. What are the 10 Incheon goals? Goal 1 is poverty reduction employment. Goal 2 is for your particular interest. Promote participation in political processes and in decision making. 3 is about accessibility. 4, social protection. 5, early intervention education. 6, gender equality and women's empowerment. 7, disability inclusive disaster reduction. 8, improvement of the disability statistics. 9, acceleration of ratification and implementation of Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and harmonization with the domestic legislation. 10, international, interregional, subregional cooperation. Go to 7, please. So, goal 2 is specifically on promoting participation in political processes and in decision making. We have 2 targets under there. A, ensure that persons with disabilities are represented in government decision making bodies. B, provide reasonable reasonable accommodation to enhance the participation of persons with disabilities in the political processes. Okay, what does it really mean? Let's go to the next slide, 8. We have 4 core indicators. First of all, we want to know the proportion of seats held persons with disabilities in the parliament or equivalent national legislative body. We want to know proportion of members of the national coordination mechanism on disability. We want to know proportion of those represented in a national machinery for gender equality, those meaning persons with disabilities. And we want to know proportion of polling stations in the national capital that are accessible for persons with disabilities, and also processes are in place that ensure confidentiality of voters with disabilities. Page 9. We also want to know, those are supplementary indicators. We have 3 more. Proportion of cabinet positions held by persons with disabilities at the national level. Proportion of Supreme Court judges who are persons with disabilities. Last but not least, availability of legislation that requires the National Election Authority to conduct election processes in a manner that makes it accessible for persons with diverse disabilities. 10. Okay. Sometimes all these languages are too complicated, so we have just published easy to understand version of Incheon Strategy. Go to 11. So for example, for core indicators, what it means is that we are asking all member states to count the number of persons with disabilities who are members of parliament. Count the number of persons with disabilities who are members of the named national governing body on disability. Count the number of persons with disabilities who are members of main government body for equality between women and men. Excuse me. Count the number of places in a national capital where persons with disabilities can easily go to vote without having to show other people who they have voted for. So we are putting a lot of emphasis on data and information correction to make sure the political rights of persons with disabilities are actually being realized. Go to 11. Last year, we did a little bit of survey for our member states, and 23 of them have responded. We asked them, do you actually, at this point, beginning of the new decade, have all this data asked in indicators for each of the goals? So, I mean, it's too much for you, but the blue on the Excel sheet indicates that the member state says, yes, they have some data. And the orange means that, no, they don't have any data in their hand at the point of last year.
Can we do next slide?
If you kind of see the distribution of blue and orange on the sheet, I mean, you see, okay, there are a lot of orange, but our aim is that this is going to be as blue as some of the beautiful skies in some parts of Indonesia. And go to the page 13. Okay. Are you there? Page 13? Okay. Page 13 actually is a magnified version of Goal 2. We asked the government if they have data with regard to 7 indicators under the Goal 2 regarding political participation of persons with disabilities. So out of 23, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 5 governments says they have some data on number of parliamentarians with disabilities, for example.
Change the slide.
So you can see that, okay, the data is not still not quite available. So we really need to work together, CSOs and United Nations organizations, and I understand there are a lot of representatives from the government in the audience, to collect data and information for all of the indicators. New decade started in 2013, and 2017 is a midpoint of this decade. In that year, there is going to be a midpoint review, high-level intergovernmental meeting. For that review, we will distribute the official questionnaire probably in 2016 to collect data, and the results of the survey will be official data to show for the midpoint review. So I think it's very important at this point, we are already in 2015, for member states to have some kind of practical plan to generate data for all of these indicators. Remember, this Incheon Strategy is an intergovernmentally agreed document. So they made a commitment, in other words, to submit data for these indicators.
Please move the slides quickly.
To supplement or to support the member states' effort to generate data and submit it to us in 2016, just last December we published, page 14 please, we published a guidebook on data generation for Incheon Strategy indicators. At the end of this presentation, I have a specific website where all of you can access to this guidebook. And if you are interested in getting hard copies, please communicate to me through Christian or whoever appropriate person at the agenda. Yes, so for this, through this book, we are asking member states to start to work on generating data. For example, go to page 15. For the indicator 2.1, in other words, show us, we would like to know the proportion of parliamentarians with disabilities. Method of data collection from us is each member state
could we have two or three questions, one or two questions?
Identification form based on ICF definition or ICF approach to disability.
Time is
Asking,
up.
do you have a disability?
Time is up.
Okay. Aiko,
Hello?
time is up. Can you be ready for one or two questions, please?
Time is up.
What we are doing, and what I'd like to ask you is really utilize these materials that we have prepared and disseminate the information and
Technical
contact
people, could you keep
national
informed
focal
the times
point
up and then we want to
on
open for
disability
questions.
who should know about these efforts and work with them to have better data for goal 2.
Udah.
Okay, thank you, Aiko, very much for your lovely presentation, and the document will be shared to our participants. And I don't know whether we have one or two questions for Aiko or not. Is it enough time or no more time?
No more time.
So Aiko, in the name of the committee and agenda, we would like to say thank you very much for your valuable time to contribute with our, but the time is up, sorry. No, we don't have more time. I apologize for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your attention, and thank you, Mr. The only one speaker today for this session. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I ask for another round of applause to our speaker and also co-chairs, and also to Ms. Aiko Akiyama, although she was by phone with us. And now we would like also to present our appreciation to our speaker and moderators. We are still setting up for the photo session, our lighting sets. And we are pleased to announce to all the participants that we are awaiting the attendance of the Minister of Social Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia to join us this afternoon. And now we would like to invite Mr. Chris Don. One moment, please. Mr. Chris Dunn is going to present the mementos. First, Mr. Kyle Lemargie, Senior Programs and Research Specialist of IFES. Thank you very much. And also our next memento to Mr. Incheon Strategy. To Ms. Nguyen Hong Ha first, thank you so much for chairing the session. Together with Mr. Incheon Strategy, who will also receive a token of appreciation from us. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, we will now break for coffee and tea for 15 minutes. Please return to the room in 15 minutes.